But more than just trying to make you feel better by telling you that you're not alone in this, I want you to understand that there are things that you can do to help to navigate some of these extreme behaviors.
Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again.
I definitely know that feeling of walking into your classroom and wondering if you even have the energy to face the day. That weight in your chest, the pressure to be everything to everyone, the exhaustion that comes from trying to manage behaviors and meet expectations and still be that creative, inspiring teacher that you dreamed of being. My friend, you're not alone in this. Every great teacher has stood where you are right now, tired, doubting, and wondering if it's possible to turn things around. But I'm here to tell you, it is possible. The Classroom Reset experience is that bridge back to the teacher that you wanted to be all along. Let's walk it together. We'll explore practical, creative strategies to keep your students engaged and excited to learn, dynamic classroom management tips that actually work, and arts-based activities that boost your students' social and emotional growth. The best part, these approaches will feel natural, effortless, and like second nature in your everyday teaching, and that's the point. This isn't about doing more. This is about resetting what you already do. Plus, you'll get all the support you could possibly need along the way to make this successful in your classroom. You don't need a new initiative. You need a reset. Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset to see how easy it is to get started. I just had a conversation with another teacher who has had some really, really horrible student behaviors this school year. And we're talking about the type of behaviors that are like complete shutdowns, emotional overload, and becoming violent. She actually used the word violent. And it made me really stop and think, because the last couple of podcast episodes, I focused in on, some of the great things that we really need to remind ourselves of as teachers. The great things like the kids, the content that we get to teach, the fact that we are truly making a difference. And even though I know that this teacher is a good teacher, I know that she is really making a difference in her small and big ways every day, all year. I also know that she is struggling, and she's struggling specifically because of those extreme student behaviors. You know the type I'm talking about, right? The type of behaviors that make you need to evacuate your classroom. The type of behaviors that make you truly second guess if you should be doing this job and if you've made some really bad choices in your professional career. The type of behaviors that keep you up at night, whether that's because you have such empathy for those students or because you are so burnt out by dealing with those behaviors. So what do I have to offer you today? Well, just a couple of things. One, I want to remind you that you're not alone. And for what that's worth, I know that doesn't fix things for you, but it is, I guess, good to know that you aren't alone in dealing with these behaviors. I talk to teachers not just across the country, but truly around the world. Europe, Australia, Japan, South America. I talk to so many teachers who are also dealing with these behaviors. This is something that is going to have to be really addressed in our education system, it's something that we really are going to need to start addressing as a society. But more than just trying to make you feel better by telling you that you're not alone in this, I want you to understand that there are things that you can do to help to navigate some of these extreme behaviors. And some of them you probably already know, but it's worth repeating and it's worth putting out there for you to think about and for you to kind of reflect and see if you are actually doing these things. Okay, and some of what I'm going to be saying comes directly from one of my resources called the Behavior Blueprint. And some of you may have access to this if you are in the Classroom Reset. So if you're interested in learning more about this resource, I'll put the link in the show notes. But here are 5 steps that you can use to handle disruptive behavior in your classroom, okay? And I'm going to just kind of go over a summary of each step. Step 1 is to really assess the situation as it's happening before you take any action. Look and assess the situation to understand the root cause of the disruption. Is the student acting out due to boredom? Or is it frustration? Is it attention-seeking behavior? Or some other kind of underlying issue? You can do this type of assessment by observing the student's body language, consider any recent changes in their behavior, consider what happened before the behavior started. And this is important information to have because this is going to help you to provide some valuable insights, and it's going to be really important when you are trying to document what the situation is, especially if it's something that keeps repeating itself. Okay? As you're doing this, as you're assessing, as you're deciding that you're going to handle what's going on in front of you, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you do have some control over yourself and you can help the situation. Okay? All right. The next step is to redirect attention. So once you've kind of assessed what the situation is, consider how you can redirect the student's attention back to the task at hand. It's funny because my husband, when our kids were little, he was like the master of distraction. And maybe if you have had contact with some really talented behavioralists in your school or your school counselors, they are really good at distracting students and trying to get them to move to something different or move away from the other students or just move to something different. So redirecting attention can be a really good thing to give a try to, as long as the student's not violent. And kind of think about how you can redirect their attention. All right. You can do this, by either getting them back to the task at hand, or maybe you have a positive alternative activity. Maybe you bring them to a different spot in the classroom and you give them something to color. Maybe you have them play with a little stack of blocks. Sometimes this is where I'll take out my break box and I'll be able to use that to give them a little distraction away from other things that are just causing their misbehavior. As you're doing this, do this clearly and concise. So clear, concise instructions. And you can even use nonverbal cues if you need to just signal to the student that their disruptive behavior is not acceptable. And you can kind of like lead them into a different spot in the room. Now, step 3 is about addressing the behavior. And this is something you do once everything has calmed down, right? Address the behavior and do it privately if this is possible for you. Do it outside of the classroom environment or pull them to a side table. This one-on-one approach is going to really allow you to discuss the issue calmly and confidently without drawing any unnecessary attention to the student or to the student in front of their peers, which you definitely don't want to do. And when you're talking to a student, this is all after the situation has happened, and hopefully you've been able to successfully do step 2, which is redirect their attention. You want to really give yourself the opportunity to actively listen to them and put on your empathetic hat and really hear what that student has to say and see if they can verbalize or draw out or something, just kind of try and have some communication about what the behavior is and how you might be able to help that student. Step 4 is about consequences, because it really is important that the student does get some kind of consequences. And this is where I want to pull from the idea of having logical consequences that are really directly related to the behavior rather than just a punitive measure. But I'm going to leave that up to you. Maybe the punitive measure is what needs to happen, right? So inside the behavior blueprint, I have a whole listing of different consequences that really make sense for different behaviors. This is something that, if you have a certain kind of situation, a certain type of behavior, really think about how the consequences can fit what the student is doing. And that in and of itself can really help the situation and really help the student to understand where you're coming from. And step 5 is follow-up and support. So after you've addressed the disruptive behavior, follow up with the student. And that's part of the implementing consequences and the sitting and really talking about the behaviors with the student, but also offer some opportunities for them to reflect on their action and maybe even together brainstorm strategies for avoiding similar incidents in the future. And always, always, always take note of what happened. It's so important for you to have documentation and a paper trail. And I know that as a teacher, you don't have a lot of time for this. So maybe you have a clipboard that is ready to go and you can just add to it really quickly, but it's so important for you to follow up. Now, with some of these behaviors that are consistent or are so extreme, maybe some of those steps are just out of the question for you. Do not be afraid to call for help. I talk to so many teachers who want to try and handle everything on their own. And that does 2 things. It hurts you and it takes you away from the other students in the classroom. If you are not a behavioralist yourself, maybe the best thing you can do is call in for backup. So get to know who are the people you can call. Who can you call on the phone? Who can you walkie on your walkie? Who can you press a button and get to you as soon as the behaviors are escalating, or even before they're escalating, really. When you see that trigger happening in your classroom because you've put in the work for that step 1, you've assessed the situation when behaviors start and you are understanding why these behaviors are happening. When you see that trigger happening, call for backup. Call the office, call the behavioralist, call the school counselor, whoever it is that you can get into your classroom to help you with that child, please do. And don't hesitate. And if that means for the next week, you're calling every day, multiple times a day, that is the way to go. So I really hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope that these steps kind of shed some light on how you can address the behaviors. And this is for some of those more extreme behaviors, but these are also good steps to take with any disruptive behavior. So let me repeat them again. Step 1, assess the situation. Step 2, redirect the attention. Step 3, address it privately with the student. And 4, implement consequences and try and make those logical consequences that are going to make sense. And step 5, follow up and support them. And again, I'm going to add in that step 6, that if this kind of behavior continues, to absolutely call for backup. If you are interested in learning all the other resources that are inside the Behavior Blueprint, I'll put that link in the show notes. And if you have stories, if you have questions about student behaviors, about the things that are important for you and important to you, and the things that you're dealing with in the day-to-day of your classroom, I want to invite you to something. I want to invite you to go to my website, theinspiredclassroom.com/podcast. And on that page, I have a special link just for you, my podcast listeners, to go ahead and click the button and you can record a question for me. And I would absolutely love to answer the question on the podcast. So again, you're going to go to theinspiredclassroom.com/podcast, and that's where you'll be able to find the link that you can ask a question. I can't wait to hear from you. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.